evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Yemen Today's News. I'm Ali Nasr al-Khamri. The Saudi warplanes have continued its vicious attacks on Hajjah Governorate, northwest of Yemen. Local sources confirmed that the enemy's jets have waged 24 air raids on the bordering districts of Harab and Midi within the past hours. Earlier, the Saudi warplanes have targeted a house at Wajhah district with 2 airstrikes resulted in wasting 3 lives, a woman and a child among them, and causing serious injuries to 5 other citizens. The Saudi war jets have resumed its attacks on Nehm district of Sana'a Governorate. Local sources reported that the enemy's jets have waged a heavy air raid on Mahalli area in the district. And earlier, the enemy jets have waged 2 airstrikes on Al Madfoun area in the same district. The Saudi warplanes continued its attacks on Taiz Governorate. Local sources confirmed that the Saudi jet fighters have waged 5 air raids on north of Yakhtal area of Mocha district. The Saudi warplanes have also waged in the past hours 2 raids on Mawza district. The last raids on the district of Mawza were on Thursday, when the enemy's jets have waged, based on local reports, 3 airstrikes against it. The Saudi war jets have continued its vicious raids against the governorate of Sa'da. According to local sources, the enemy's jets have waged 4 airstrikes on the districts of Baqim and other air raid on Al-Zahir district. Earlier, the Saudi jet fighters have waged 4 air raids on Al-Zahir district and 3 airstrikes on the areas of Al-Buqa and Khalayqa of Kitaf district. BRICS countries, namely Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, have expressed their concerns during their 9th summit held in China over the situation in Yemen. BRICS leaders call in the final declaration of their summit to cease fire in Yemen and engage in UN-supported settlement negotiations that contains all political parties in the country. It's worth mentioning that Yemen is under Saudi-led aggression since March 2015 that killed and injured thousands of civilians and destroyed thousands of public and private properties. Human rights groups have urged the UN to establish an independent inquiry into abuses during the Yemen conflict. In a letter addressed to the UN Human Rights Council from a coalition of 62 NGOs, warned that serious violations of international humanitarian and human rights law are being committed with impunity. The letter that published by the Guardian newspaper also added that the Saudi Arabia-led coalition has conducted scores of unlawful airstrikes that have killed thousands of civilians and hit schools, hospitals, markets and homes. The letter is signed by local and international organizations including Amnesty, International Care and International Federation for Human Rights and Yemen Humanitarian Forum. Dr. Jean-Francois Corti, MSF Director of International Operations and one of the signatories, said an independent inquiry would increase the pressure on the United Kingdom, France and other countries supporting the Saudi forces. Corti, who added that the targeting of hospitals had made hospital staff afraid to report for work, also compassed the increasing difficulty of accessing clean water and food items, which are hard to import because of a blockade imposed by the Saudi-led coalition. The journalists, children and doctors of Yemen have protested several times in front of the head office of the United Nations in the capital Sana'a, having only one demand, that is to stop Saudi terrorism against humanity in Yemen.
Many protesting rallies have been held in front of the head office of the United Nations in the capital Sana'a, calling on the United Nations to take its responsibilities toward what Saudi terrorism is committing against humanity in Yemen and to stop the war and siege on the country. The people of Mocha Directorate in Taiz Governorate have protested against the Saudi war crime committed on the residents of the electricity workers, causing hundreds of deaths and injuries, among them women and children. The participants in the stand called on the United Nations to prosecute the criminals for the massacres against humanity in Yemen and bring them to justice. They also demanded the human conscious look at those displaced persons from their homes without guilt. However, they have not received a reply from the United Nations yet. The Yemeni Journalists' Office launched the call, "Stop Killing Yemeni Journalists," in a protest held before the head office of the United Nations, condemning the continuation of targeting journalists and media institutions by Saudi warplanes in a try to silence the voice of the truth and to cover up its crimes against Yemeni journalists. They addressed a message through their protest to the Security Council, saying that Saudi regime must be prosecuted for its crimes against journalists in Yemen. However, the Security Council have not replied yet. Children of Yemen organized a protest against the barbaric Saudi war on Yemen. They condemned the failure of the United Nations to deal with the horrors of massacres and killings against children of Yemen. They also called on the United Nations and the Security Council to quickly stop Saudi death machine and bloodshed of children and women and to bring murderers to International Criminal Court. However, the children of Yemen have been ignored by the United Nations and the Security Council. Doctors and nurses of Athora Hospital held a protest stand in front of the United Nations head office, denouncing the closure of Sana'a International Airport, which results in preventing patients from traveling abroad for treatment and the death of more than 10,000 patients who suffered from chronic diseases. The protesting doctors and nurses demanded the United Nations meet its obligations of paying the salaries of the public sector in general and health sector in particular. However, Sana'a International Airport is still closed.
Number of Tunisian civil society organizations and the Yemeni community in Tunisia have organized a candle stand in solidarity with the Yemeni people against the Saudi aggression and to show solidarity with the Yemeni girl Buthayna al-Raimi, the sole survivor of the recent Attan massacre. The participants in the stand have called for stopping the systemic war and destruction in Yemen and demanding the international community to break the silence regarding the brutal aggression that targeting the lives of innocent and defenseless civilians. The stand was attended by academics, intellectuals, and activists in Tunisia, all stressing the rejection of the heinous crimes committed by the coalition of aggression against Yemen. That's all, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.